BYU and take a couple questions.
Okay. Obviously, the Colorado State game was a tremendous atmosphere, number one. Fans were fantastic. A hard-fought football game, just like we talked about all week long. You know exactly what you're going to get when you play Colorado State. And it was a very, very difficult, tough loss at the end for us to deal with. I think if you sit back and look at our football team, there is a lot of things that when we talked about getting better in areas at the first of the year, we're doing that in a lot of areas. You know, I'm not a stat guy, and I'm especially not a stat guy in the first 5 or 6 or even 7 games of the year, but we've made progress in many areas. But the main area that matters is wins and losses, and we've lost 2 very, very difficult games. Very hard for every fan, very hard for every player, very hard for every coach, very hard for every alum. I get all that stuff, and it's not the way we want it to be, and it hurts us bad, all of us, because we do have expectations. And one other thing that I would say is that, you know, this program, at this point, in my opinion, deserves to have some expectations, and with expectations comes criticism, if that's the way it goes, and the criticism that comes, then that's fine on me. But the one thing that I struggle with when you get in those situations is when the criticism goes to a young man. I don't think that's fair in any way, shape, or form. And not one play wins or loses a football game. Never, and it never will. And that's very difficult for a young man. And in this case, I mean, I'll throw it out there. I'm talking about Eric Motes, who might be the best ambassador that we have on this football program for Utah State, for Cache Valley, and for everybody involved. And you know, for situations to arise for him to have to take that, it hurts him to make that mistake worse than it hurts any of us, trust me. And you know, that's basically a hometown rival of his. It's a school he grew up watching, and had an opportunity to participate in a victory over him. So that's very, very difficult for Eric. And you know, all the other stuff is fine, and it is what it is. But I don't agree with the if you will, verbal attacks on Eric Motes. It's unfair. The other things that are out there is, you know, these kids will bounce back. We came back in one time a year. We come in on Sunday. We came back last night, and we talked about the game, evaluated the game, and dissected it, and moved on to the BYU game. So a lot to learn from in a positive way, a lot to learn from in a negative way, and we will respond. This football team is excited to continue to play, and it is a very, very young season, and it's still in its infancy stages. And as we talked at the beginning, we lost round 4. You know, we took a very, very hard defeat and fought like crazy. But this team will bounce back and do some quality things, I believe. And we'll get out on the practice field today. We'll treat today just like a normal Tuesday and move through the week like that. Wednesday will actually be a Thursday, and so on. And we'll come back and be just fine. We're used to these weeks, and the short period has been made up already by the coaches. The short period has already been made up by the players. So right now we are on normal schedule, just as if it's Tuesday. So that's how we're acting as a program, and we're very, very used to that, and move forward. So I guess the other thing, that the questions that's going to be out there, so I might as well just communicate to everybody about it, is, you know, would I do anything different? No, I wouldn't. You sit back at the end, and we have a young man that's caught thousands of punts since we've been here. He's as good as I've ever been around. It's easy to go back and say, well, you know, just don't have anybody back there. Yeah, it is. And then we don't put somebody back there, the ball rolls to the 1-yard line, they block a punt out of the back of the end zone, or we kick a bad punt, and all of a sudden they get the ball in the 30. There's still opportunities. The game is still being played, and at that point the game still needs to be played. And it doesn't matter what happens. There's always something else that you can say, coulda, woulda, shoulda, when it didn't go your way. We are going to coach aggressive. I'm going to believe in the young men that we put on the field, that they can execute and that they can make plays, and that's the way that I believe this game should be played. And you know, that's part of it. That's part of the second guessing, waking up on Sunday or waking up on Saturday and saying this is what you should have done. That's part of the drill. And don't think we don't look at ourselves and say, yeah, in that situation we'd have really not liked to have him on the field, but we did, and we did it, and we did it because that's what we believed was the best decision to make. Going for the 2 points. I'll do it again in a second, especially the way it worked out with the PI. We're on the 1.5 yard line for one play. I like our chances to go win a football game. And it didn't happen for us, but again, I'm going to be aggressive. I think that's the way you build a team, to believe that they can win. And I sat in that huddle. I looked at the offense's eyes, the belief, the want to go for that thing in that situation. Ultimately, it's 100% my call, and it was the wrong call at that time and at that moment. But we gained 2 yards, and we're looking at it as a whole different scenario. But that did not take place. But at the end, I will remain aggressive as a coach as we continue to try to build a team that is a winner.
Can you tell us if you've talked to Eric already, or if you've talked to him in this kind of situation yourself?
Well, Eric was in no position to be talked to after the game. I mean, he was completely devastated, and Eric will bounce back. Eric's what he's gone through with his training and his time in Air Force, and the adversity that I'm sure that he's dealt with in that situation and throughout his life. He'll bounce back and be fine. And we'll all put our arm around him. And I didn't talk to Eric specifically because I don't think he needs to be talked to specifically, but I did point it out in the team meeting and made it very clear with the same statement I made here. It's 2-point play. Play bracket coverage perfectly how it's supposed to be played. Doesn't matter because all of a sudden it's an incomplete pass. We got run the play down on the goal line, and we turn around and we score. And so as magnified as Eric is in one situation and one play, the other young man that didn't completely execute things perfectly to have the other plays go, well, no one knows about that. So no one sees that. So it doesn't matter. So you're not magnified in that position. And I told the team that not one play wins or loses a football game.
How about your review of the fumble play that I scored?
I haven't seen the secret picture. So I looked at it on tape, and I looked at it during the game, and I feel the same way I did in the game. The same thing I told the officials. I thought he was absolutely not even close. But apparently there was no view from an official, and apparently there was no view from the camera upstairs. And I don't know. I can't see the camera upstairs. All I can do is go by what I saw, and it's not like it was a bang call to me. It was like, then the ball came out. So it is what it is. And again, one bad call or one good call does not win or lose a football game either. And we move forward, and we can't look, again, as we continue to try to build and get ourselves over the hump for winning football games, we can't use crutches. We just can't say, well, this would have happened, and boy, if that play wouldn't have happened, we would have possibly been up 14-0, and it would have been 1st and 10, and well, whatever. It doesn't. It does not change the outcome, and we cannot use crutches. You just can't do that.
The thing that shows, though, is you're trying to preach to your guys, you've got to make some turnovers and plays, because that changed the football game for them. They
Absolutely.
were down and out, it looked like to me, and all of a sudden after that, they played better. The whole team played better football.
Yeah.
I mean, what that did to the game.
Yeah, well, when we went in, first of all, turnovers, 4-1. You're not going to win. I don't care how well you play on offense, defense, and special teams. You are unbelievably lucky if you win a football game when you lose a turnover battle 4-1, especially when one of those leads to a pickup fumble for a touchdown and the other one leads to the ball being on the 15-yard line. That makes it very, very, very difficult. The other ones, we were able to overcome it and got out of the other muff punt without points, and that was a positive thing. And they may have got a field goal on that one. I can't remember, but I don't think they did. So we were able to, react. But 4-1 in the turnover area is very, very difficult. The one turnover we got instantly puts us up 8 points and absolutely changes the game. So the ability for us to be able to get those turnovers is big, and we have not done. Right now we got 2 turnovers on the year, and that's not good. And if you look at it, and I go back, and again, I showed this to the team last night. You can go through the national stats and look and see where we are in rush defense and total defense and run on offense and total on offense. Very, very, very good. Okay, but then you got to go all the way down to the bottom of the second page of the stats to find out where we sit on creating turnovers and where we sit in the turnover margin. Okay, we're minus 1.33 in a turnover margin. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. That is, in my opinion, next to the score, it's the most important stat in football. And they both relate to each other very, very closely.
You said, though, you can't, there's no magical drill to create turnovers, so what's not happening?
Well, that's a great question. I think we're a physical defense. We tackle well. We're playing the run very well. I see kids going in and trying to get the ball out. The one thing that I think we'll be able to get better is in the back end in our zone coverages with the precise drops, a quarterback making a bad choice and a bad decision in some of our zone coverages. Hopefully that does come our way as we move forward. In man coverage, man coverage is usually not a interception defense unless it's your free safety or it's your low hole dropper that gives you an opportunity to be able to pick the ball off. And we have played quite a bit of man coverage as we've gone through the year. But I believe they'll come because I think we're a defense that tackles well right now. I believe we're a defense that flies to the ball and gets multiple hats on the football, snap after snap. But apparently the ball security of the teams that we're playing against is a lot better than our ball security, and we harp on that ball security every single day in practice. And two of them had nothing to do with ball security in the game. They're muffs. That's a different scenario, but we can't get that ball ripped out of our hands and put it on the turf. And we actually had 5, but we got one back.
Robert Turbin talked about the inability to get open in man coverage in the last game. Was Colorado State doing anything extraordinary?
Colorado State didn't play man coverage. Played quarters, which is, it's a version of man. There's man on the outside, and they played probably 95% quarters coverage. And the ability, I would say this, I would not look back at that film and say, I don't know if Robert's talking about himself or the team as a whole, but what I would say is the inability to get open was not the fact. The fact was that when we got in passing situations, the pocket closed very, very, very quickly on Chucky, and that's something that he wasn't used to. And those defensive ends and the defensive tackles, I thought, did a nice job of rushing the passer. We gave up 2 or 3 sacks, 3 sacks that we ended up giving up. So the pocket was closing very quickly on an athletic quarterback, and that's something that we have to be able to adjust as a staff and as a football team to give Chucky the ability to see down the field. And there were some opportunities when there was guys open that we didn't quite get the ball to, and a lot of that again had to do with the sense of people in his face.
So is the timing in the backfield a bigger concern than the timing downfield with the receivers for you?
The timing in the backfield as far as the quarterback?
Yeah, in terms of him having the time to throw.
Yeah, I would say that's number one. The ability for us to be able to draw a line up front. Yep. Whether it's going to be a blitz package or just rushing 4. And in this last game, it was not a blitz package. Next week, that'll be a little different. They'll blitz a little bit more than normal. But their ability to get pressure on the quarterback with 4 is very, very disruptive. And, case in point, watched the NFL game a little bit last night, and, you can't pass rush Roethlisberger, you got no chance because he'll pick you apart and dissect you all the way down the field. But if you can pass rush him, all of a sudden game changes very quickly, and that's really no different than any level of a college quarterback. Finding a way to get in his way and make his clock tick causes some major issues in the throw game.
Running style of Turbin and these other 2 guys, Robert kind of skips and looks and then goes. Mm-hmm. And then these other guys seem to just go for it, whether it's there or not. Do you have a comment on that? I mean, it just seems like it's quite different.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Robert has a great knack, and that's natural ability to me. And he's not always right when he does it. There's times when we'd ask him to be able to hit it downhill, and there's other times when he bounces it out, and it obviously turns itself into a big play. And I think as a back, you have to be able to do both. But there's absolutely no question Michael Smith is more of a downhill. Michael's mindset is when he gets the ball in his hands, if there's a guard in his way, then he'll put his face mask in the guard's back. And Robert, a lot of times, a little different. Robert will be in a mindset of, I think he sees and can kind of dissect where he thinks the defense is headed and what the mindset is of the defense on the particular snap. So, and Kerwin likes to get to the hole and then make a decision, if you will, like he does on kickoff returns, like he does on punt returns. So, very different, all 3 of them, both talented. And again, I thought we ran the ball very well. The key for us in all 3 phases of this football team is to stay aggressive. And I felt like there's areas from the last football game where we can be more aggressive. We can be more aggressive on the offensive side of the football, and I know that we will. And I believe we can be a little bit more aggressive at times on special teams. And when the opportunity knocks, we have to take advantage of those situations on special teams, i.e. the first punt of the game.
Did you touch that punt?
We touched his leg.
Oh.
Yeah, so we touched his leg, and so I think it caused a bad punt more than us blocking it. But those are a perfect example of what we're talking about. I mean, that is designed off last week. It's looked at, it's studies, it's put in, it's repped out in practice all the way through, and it's not the kid's fault. And I'm not saying that when I say this. What I do say is that we didn't execute in a key moment where we have to put our hand on that football. And if we do, there's a great opportunity that game is 7-0 at that point. So we look back at as coaches and say we should have had Maurice put his hand on the ball more times during practice. And, you know, if we did all those things, we'd probably practice 40 hours a week, and then I'd be in trouble. So, but we, you know, it's just when it's so close and it comes down to the last couple critical plays, it's difficult to, you know, you second guess yourself. It's human nature, but we need to continually work on those things.
Did I understand you say fatigue played a role in the decision of the time for the football
Yes.
play?
Yeah. On the defense, it definitely did. Yeah, because we had, you know, Al Lapawahu, you know, he was probably 60% and probably 40% at the end of that game with the ankle that he had, and was barely plugging along towards the end. Quinn Garner had the flu all day. Quinn wasn't even with us the whole day on Saturday, and so Quinn didn't play the whole game, and so we were basically down to, you know, 6 inside defensive linemen, and our ability to hang in there. If you watched again, Colorado State does a nice job. If you can get Steve Fairchild into a mindset where he doesn't think he can protect the quarterback and can't run the ball in the base stuff, they're always going to go back into the bigger and heavier personnel group to protect number one, and number two to be able to run the ball and try to be able to wear you down. That's I've been through this before, and it played out just like that, just clockwork, boom, 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 all the way down the line. And they brought in the extra offensive linemen. They brought in their 2 bigger tight ends, and quite frankly, we had a hard time late in the game being able to handle it. Now, the defensive numbers in the rush game were absolutely off the charts, but if you just took the last 2 drives, it was not. And it was definitely a feeling to me that we were in position to had to make something happen, and the call sheet got a little bit slimmer as we went through the game there. And, you know, and then the other thing is you know, it was a gut feeling to go for the 2, but I felt like that did play a factor in the decision that I made.
I think Robert said we practice a 2-point play every day in practice.
Mm-hmm.
So that must have been
Yeah, there's a play that we practice, and you know, there's 2 or 3 different options off of that, but the slant, the first one, was absolutely. The second play on the 1.5-yard line, that's a base run game play. You know, it's a play we'd run multiple times throughout the game, and they made a play on that particular play, and it wasn't run nearly as much as the power play, and I believe they were overplaying the power, and they did a nice job of making a play on that one. But the slant, there's a lot that goes into that play, but we got Matt Austin on the backside, press man-to-man coverage, motion goes across, he's back there in 0 coverage. Very, very difficult to protect the slant. Offensive lineman did a nice job of getting the hands down, nice clean throw to Matt, and the guy's hanging on his back and it's PI. So, it was a great throw. Yeah, I mean, throw's right there. Matt doesn't drop that ball. He'll catch it if it wasn't pass interference, but obviously it was pass interference, and that's the way it goes, which at the end, you know, good play by the corner from Colorado State to PI him in that case and gave him another chance.
When you look at BYU, I mean, rank 111th in the total offense.
Mm-hmm.
What's your impression?
Well, I think that I think they're just simply in a position of understanding who they are. Probably came out of the blocks. So let me first say this: Texas, really good on defense. Utah, really good on defense. Okay, Ole Miss is a very good defensive football team. I don't know how they've played. I've only watched them play 1 game, so you know you can sit back and say, and the Central Florida team is really good on defense. And I've watched those kids play for a couple, 3 years. Usually get to see them on Thursday nights. So BYU has played very good defenses, in my opinion. You just stack them all up on a whole. It's not like they played against a defense that's not good from what I've seen. All very athletic, run very well, rush the passer well, very skilled in the back end. So that has the most to do with it. If you sit back and you look how the offense is being called and where it sits, is there been some missed throws and some missed opportunities? Absolutely. But the quarterback as a whole, if I sit down and evaluate him, unbelievably talented. The ball gets out of his hands extremely quick. Seems to be having a better grasp last game, in my opinion, of the overall of the offense and what they're trying to be able to get done on the offensive side of the ball than he did in the previous games. And he's a competitor, and he's a tough-minded kid. You know, he's faced some adversity in the last few weeks, a lot of adversity, I'm sure, but he's handled it. And I listened to him talk, and he talks about his team first. He doesn't talk about himself, and basically makes statements of we're going to get better. And so he's talented. The running backs. same guys we faced a year ago, good backs. They run hard, catch the ball very well out of the backfield. The wide receivers are skilled and talented and tall. Their ability to be able to make plays, I know, is going to be something that they're looking to be able to get done. So, like I say, if you go by the numbers, and I'm not a stat guy, but especially not the first 3 or 4 games in their case, it won't be indicative of what that offense is for the rest of the year as they continue to move forward. But they played good people, and it's a solid offense, and we'll have to play very well to defend them, and we're looking forward to the opportunity.
And then
Cameron will be back. Yeah, he should have been back last week, but Cameron was in a position where he really couldn't tackle yet. And we talked about it last week, and he did practice, but he was still a young man that was not in a spot to be able to tackle much, and felt like one more week, especially with the packages that we got in that game. We didn't play 3 corners one time, basically, and that's not true. Maybe 4 or 5 times we did, but it wasn't a lot, so we didn't get to our sub packages, nor did we need to in that last game. I think that'll change a little bit in this game.
Anybody else hurt?
Al's got the little ankle, so he's where he is, and other than that, I think we came out of there pretty healthy. So it's imperative for us to get Al back. That's a big part of that inside defense right now.
With the big part of the BYU team, their defense, though, haven't they played really well?
They played very, very well. If you sit back and you watch them, and they run hard, they play hard, they do a lot of good things, and Broncos done a nice job with that defense, and he always does a nice job with the defense. So they're aggressive. The 2 styles of the defenses, from what we do and what they do, not as much man coverage as we are, but they obviously blitz quite a bit and get moving around in the pocket and cause some scenarios, and they want to aggravate the quarterback and cause some issues. So, I think that's they're a very solid defense, and they're aggressive defense, just like the way I think defense should be played.
Their linebackers.
Very active. They are, and they're so big inside. I've talked to the people that they've played, and they, you're not going to move the A and the B gaps. It doesn't matter. It goes 330, 330, 330, 330, whatever. It goes on forever. And those kids are big, physical young men, and I watched most of them on tape in high school at some point, and know about them and who they are, and they're the kind of guys I like. So, but they're big, physical, and they're going to knock out that run. So you have to understand, what your strengths and what your weaknesses are, and then the same of your opponent. And one of their strengths is obviously stopping the run in the middle of the defense, and nobody's moved them. Utah got the one nice run play that hit the C gap for a big score late in the game, but it's not like they're just getting run on at all. So they're powerful inside and run well at the backer position.
And without not quite 100%, and they're pretty big on the offensive line, and they seem to get that running game going against Central Florida. How much of a concern is it for you to slow down that running game of theirs?
Well, I think it's going to be a big emphasis. You watch them. It was more of an emphasis in the last game to run the football. It was very clear, not really by the difference in formation or difference in a bunch of personnel. The Mendenhall kid is playing more fullback than he did in the other games. He's a big. Got 3 or 4 of those fullbacks that pounded in there. So we will have to be able to stop the run and to be able to compete and get off the field as a defense, and it's a major factor in this game. And because BYU is big up front and they're physical up front, and you can see them shifting gears. Their play action game is potentially very explosive, especially as their run game continues to develop. And we all know that if you can run the ball, the play action pass gets set up, and I can see that developing within their offense very clearly.
One of your big concerns in the offseason was the ability to get to the quarterback from the pass rush. You've been able to do it pretty good. It's a really good offensive line, really defensive offensive line.
Yeah.
Are you pleased with that thus far?
Yeah. Very much so. I think we have stats say 10, I say 11. So we got 11 sacks on the year, and if you don't believe it, I'll show you the tape. So where's Zach at? Yeah. It's 11, not 10. There he is. So, but anyway, I think last year we had 12 the whole season. So our ability to be able to get to the quarterback has been much better. We have better players, and that's why we're getting to the quarterback. Maurice is hard to deal with, and we have the opportunity for those young men to come off the edges. Al Lapawahu is hard to deal with on the inside, and you flip to the other side, and there's the Tavares can come off of both sides, and Jason and Levi Koskin has rushed the passer very well. So the complement of Levi being a better player off of his knee, great job. He was our best pass rusher last year. still one of our best pass rushers, but now he has 4 or 5 guys to go around him. So that's why we're sacking the quarterback, and that's where we're getting more pressure, and that will remain very important for us as we move forward. And a lot of those sacks aren't coming off of, blitzes or zone dogs. They're coming off 4-man rushes, and 2 of them last game were just off a 3-man rush with a nice disguise. So positive, and congratulations to the young men for getting in position to make those plays.
How much will last year's game with BYU use that for motivation?
Motivation? No, I don't think motivation. Shouldn't really need motivation. The one thing I would say is one of our major goals when we walked in here was to, for me, and as I move through the football team, is to make it be very important to the football team to find a way to have in-state rivalries. And we made it very clear that until you win a game, it's not a rivalry. It's a lopsided in-state game, if you will. So I think we've accomplished that goal. This will definitely be a rivalry. We won the last one, and we look forward to the opportunity to play against them. I think it'll have a little bit more to it because of that. But again, our kids will be excited to play. It's national exposure. It's on ESPN. The exposure we got last year at our place with the packed house, playing on ESPN. Probably the reason that Chucky Keaton's here taking snaps right now at the end of the day, and I've said that many times. So the fan support that we got in that game is huge for us, and obviously our little corner, I'm sure, will be full down in Cougar Stadium this year, but it's still great exposure for us.
When Coach Tony figured in fall camp, he said that he feels like a team in New York was one big win and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
you kind of buy into that? Do you think he could do that game?
I don't know. Coach Glenn he's done this a lot longer than I have, and I think a win can catapult you. I think a loss can catapult you. I think a play can catapult you, if you will, at the end. But I think this team is real simple. And this is the other thing I told the team: we'll take the next step, really, when they're ready to take the next step. Because there's nothing that I look back and I say that we need to turn around and do this or do that, and we can coach better and we can play better and we can all work harder at it, but what's going to take us to the next step that's going to catapult us to the next level is I don't know what that moment is, but I know this: we're playing better football than we have since I've been here, for sure, and I can't judge it off of anything else other than the time I've been here. And I also understand that our kids are walking out of the tunnel very centered and very focused for every game. I don't see the ups and downs and the peaks and valleys. The reason I say that is because to me that shows maturity. That shows a team that's going to go out and you're going to get the same thing out of them every single week from an effort standpoint and a care standpoint and that want to. So, are we looking for that and searching for it? You bet we are, because nobody wants to win more than those young men in that locker room. Absolutely nobody, and it's very important to them. And it's going to come. It's getting closer every single week. And I think it's going to come on a consistent basis here real soon, but it sure hasn't yet. And so, again, that's just me sitting here flapping my lips about wins, which doesn't mean anything. It doesn't give us W's.